Jai Hind, Jai Bharat, and welcome to Dev Talks. Namaskar, Vinita ji. You've joined Dev Talks journey, which is very interesting. And let me give a short introduction about Vinita ji, guys. She is someone I've known personally, and I realize she has a huge passion for Sanatan and mostly Tantra. ठीक है, मैं इनके चीजें सुनता हूँ, समझ थोड़ा कम ही आता है. Let me be very clear, but I do understand Sanatan, and you guys know जो मेरा नजरिया है सनातन धर्म के बारे में. But what I find interesting in her is that she's been able to give a very different meaning to a lot of things. For example, the word mantra. And before I, get Madam inside, but I want to just say this: Tantra has a very negative connotation. कि भाई पता नहीं क्या black magic, shack magic है वो पता नहीं क्या चल रहा है. Let's try and find out, is Tantra all negative? Is it the negative thing that is said, or is there some positivity to it? Namaskar ji, once again, welcome to the show.
Namaskar, Aadi. Jai Bharat.
Thank you.
At the outset, heartiest congratulations on reaching the 250,000 mark.
Thank you so much.
I'm incredibly proud of you.
Thank you.
We work together as colleagues in another industry, but I think the affection remains, and seeing you grow really makes me feel so grateful for everything that the universe sends our way.
Thank you.
And let me start with a small invocation.
Please.
Shuklam Varadaram Vishnum Shashivarnam Chaturbhujam Prasannavadanam Dhyayet Sarva Vignopashantaye Shri Matre Namaha.
So, madam, ye batao. This word Tantra has been over abused, if I may use that word. And when I was doing a little research for this conversation, when you type or you type anywhere else and you try and find out ye Tantra hota kya cheez hai, you will find that the main motive that people use this word for is, oh, uske upar na ye kar diya, uske upar wo kar diya. I want you to get down to the ground basic. What is Tantra? Why has it got a negative connotation?
Essentially, Tantra is one of the most important aspects of Sanatana. There are two ways you can look at it. So that we have the Vedas and then we have Tantra. So both these seamlessly integrate to form what we know as Sanatana. Now in Tantra, the word itself, let's start with the etymology of the word. Okay, it's a portmanteau word. There is Tanoti and there is Trayati, which come together to form Tantra. So it means Tanoti is to expand, and Trayati means to liberate. So it is to expand and liberate our consciousness. So effectively, Tantra is just any methodology that we use to expand and liberate our own consciousness. It's as simple as that. Now, when we talk of Tantra in modern day, what has happened is there are various paths, like with any other spiritual tradition. So we have in Tantra what is called the Vamachara, which is what has given Tantra this entire bad name.
Negative.
Right. Because Vamachara uses certain substances, certain rituals, which are not commonly used. Slightly unusual way of using everything.
Yeah.
So that has led it to gain a very bad rep in the market, particularly with the coming of the British, because they viewed this entire thing through the lens of Western morality.
Either it's good or bad, or
always there's never space for gray.
Yeah, that's true.
So
they've got this binary in their system. They kind of look at कि भाई अगर ये चीज ऐसा है तो वैसे ही है. Otherwise, we don't. Something that they don't understand mostly, I've seen, is used as a very negative way because they're not able to put it in their binary.
Also, I think it's a very deep science. Sanatana itself is so vast, it's impossible even for us to understand, in spite of being born into this dharma. So we cannot assume that someone coming from the outside and viewing it with another lens would be able to comprehend. And I think that's the reason why this entire bad rep came on Tantra. Now, to go a little deeper into what Tantra actually entails. At one point of time, we were all, following the Vedas and all of that. And the Vedas are more Orthodox. And there was a need with the coming of the emergence of Buddhism and all of that for the entire Sanatana Dharma itself to become a little more heterodox. And that's when Tantra started rising. Although it was written around the same time as, the Atharva Veda, it only came into power, into existence, into its own at the same time when Patanjali's school of yoga came up.
Simultaneously
they grew. And Tantra actually reached its peak in the 11th and 12th century. And then after that, it was a downhill slide because the Mughals happened and then the British happened. And then what we see today as Tantra is a new age phenomenon. It's new age Tantra. It's Neo Tantra. It's not even, they don't even look at the Agamas. They don't look at what actually Tantra Shastra is all about. They've given it a completely different spin. You've heard all the time. I mean, we hear all the time, come to this Kundalini retreat, have your Kundalini awakened in 7 days, 4 days. And they make that out to be Tantra. It's not that at all.
The word Tantra actually is not known. But what the word which is known is Tantric.
Correct.
Right? A guy who's Aghoris, Tantrics, and this and that. So that's what, I mean, if you ask somebody, road pe kisi ko roke, if you ask him, ki, yaar, Tantric kya hai? He'll have that very scared sort of.
Someone who will do Vashikaran, someone who will do black magic.
Have a skull, have all ash with him, smoke that, this and that. So they've got that imagery which has been put across. And I blame that on Bollywood mostly. Because
it goes back beyond, even before
the modernism
Aadi,
of that.
I think with the coming of the British and the British not understanding the tantric rituals, especially when they saw the smashana rituals, they saw the panchamakara rituals, they were not able to comprehend what was going on. For them, this was a travesty of everything that civilization stood for.
Okay, that's interesting.
And they thought this is, like aboriginal. This is not something that a civilized human being does. So that's when the bad name came into being, and then it stuck.
And then that was taken up by our own leftists who kind of took it forward.
Exactly. And also, I think with Vamachara, the fact remains that there is a subsect within Tantra that does occult stuff. Okay, so there are rituals which happen in a cremation ground. So alcohol is used, substances are used, sacrifices are made. All of this is a part of Tantra, but you have to understand it from a different perspective. So for that, there's also the offset, which is the Dakshina Marga, which is purely Orthodox, which goes all have set out for us, the Purusharthas and all of that. Now, the thing about Tantra is that the knowledge, the essence is so distilled. Okay. It's so fabulous that it's very easy to fall off the bandwagon of dharma and karma especially. So that's why the bad name.
So what you're saying is that this is knowledge that one person can acquire and use it for good, bad, or ugly.
Yes, like every other knowledge.
Any other. And, we were talking offline some time ago, and one of the biggest examples of this is Ravan.
Yes.
Right? Who was a Mahatantric and Mahayogi and all that stuff.
Yes.
And then when he told Shivji that you come with me, leave everything, and because I'm your biggest bhakt, and Shivji said no. And वहाँ पर a lot of people now connotate it to the factor कि यार उसका उससे मंद बुद्धि हो गया उसका, then he went down the wrong direction. So what you say kind of has a living, a historical example to it. Now, when you apply this, I would call it a science. Am I correct to call it a science?
Absolutely a science.
So when you apply science in today's life, in the so-called Kali Yuga that we are sitting in today, how do you apply it for the good? Because Kali Yuga, as it is, has tuned you to the negative.
Right?
So how do you channel the energy of Tantra into the good rather than what it will naturally take you to, which is the negative?
In fact, it's very interesting that you bring this up because the Agamas, they're largely presented as conversations between Shiva and Parvati. Right? And at one point, Shiva says to Parvati that in the Kali Yuga, it is only going to be the Tantric method, the Agamic method, which will lead to salvation. So now, since we are already living in a world which is filled with all of this negativity, how do we harness it? This was the question which Tantra was trying to answer several millennia ago.
Yeah.
Because all the things that we consider taboo, death, decay, rotting, all of these things which we are afraid of, once we come to terms with it,
then it's nothing.
Then we are liberated. If we find an alternative consciousness by way of drink, by way of substance, I'm not saying we have to do all of this, but there is a possibility. Now in South America, for example, people do ayahuasca, and then they find that they are a changed person after that one event, right? Because they have seen what life is really all about. They have understood that they see beyond the veil, they see beyond the maya, the illusion.
An out-of-body experience, as they say.
Exactly. It's literally an out-of-mind experience as well. So it's an alternative consciousness which results because of DMT, which is dimethyltryptamine, which is largely what is generated in the pineal gland. And that gives you an insight into what it means to actually be one with the divine consciousness. So once you see that, then you can't come back to normal living. And I think that's why even ayahuasca is used as treatment for PTSD, even for war veterans, because everything gets wiped out and you know that what has happened is all illusory and what will happen is also illusory. So that acceptance brings about a liberation. It's a moksha in a way.
So you could reach to a point of that. Now, how would you kind of, can Tantra actually get you to that point without additives, if I may?
Yes. For that, we use what is called the Dakshina Marga, which is the Orthodox method by way of meditation, by way of chanting, by way of being devoted to a particular deity of your choice, which is the Ishta Devata. Right? So so it was Swami Rama who said that in Sanatana, the most ancient tradition is that of Tantra, and the highest form of Tantra is Tamayachara, which is what Dakshina Marga is all about. And in Dakshina Marga, the highest body of knowledge is Sri Vidya. So using Sri Vidya, which is a subsect of Tantra, is the way forward for all of us.
So a layperson, how does he understand this? Now, Sri Vidya is a very high level of achievement in terms of your, I won't call it, I'd call it mindfulness, because it's something that happens here.
Right.
It's your inner which actually works. There's no change. You don't blow horns or anything. But how does a normal person, let's say a person like me, who's interested in reading, who's interested in history and stuff like that, how do I approach Tantra? Because, one of the biggest things with Sanatan is that there is just so much to it that some people get overwhelmed and they don't know how to kind of take it forward and deal with it. So how do you approach a subject like it? What do you start reading? How do you start your understanding? So you've given a very interesting definition right now. How do you take that forward?
Okay, so the three pillars of Tantra. There is non-duality, which is Advaita Vedanta. Then there is Yantra, Mantra, and Mudra. And the third aspect is of Kundalini and chakras. So if you get these three things right, if you get a basic understanding of these three things, then you're on the path to a very clean and clear, concise understanding of the whole of Tantra. A way in which you're not asked to use substances, you're not doing any rituals which are out of the ordinary, you're still being a very correct Sanatani, following the Purusharthas.
Jo aap kar rahe ho, you can continue doing that.
Continue to do that. And when people say, can I drink, can I smoke, can I eat non-vegetarian, there is absolutely no rider. There are no caveats. Even in the Dakshina Marga, just be true to your Ishta Devata, be true to your sadhana, and do what you feel treats your body like a temple. And then you're on the right path.
So it's a self-conscious thing.
Absolutely. It's complete and utter consciousness, knowing that everything that we perceive, everything that we see is coming straight out of our own consciousness, of our own perspective of this world.
You mentioned Kundalini,
yes.
And you also mentioned these silly little courses that a lot of people do. And I'm going to just take a little time to come to modernism, because everything is for sale today, right? And because see, that's where I find a problem in today's life. Everybody wants to spend some money, do a course, and just somebody sits in front and kuch sikha do.
Right.
And Asha wo Guruji ne bol diya to khatam ho gaya.
And then also there is the disappointment with
Then you
which
don't
comes,
get.
you go in with so much expectation, you pay the money, and then you realize after perhaps 3 years or 4 years that the Guruji is not what he made himself out to be. And then you're terribly disappointed and you sink all over
Yeah.
again. And it's coming back to base one,
Yeah.
as it were.
Yeah. How is it that a person, as I said, you told us what they are and how to approach it. Now,
Yeah.
how do we demodernize this concept of you mentioned Kundalini. Kundalini awakening is for sale. Oh, awaken your what fourth Kundalini for this. And it's like, acha, okay, this one, yahan par kuch jaga denge and everything will be all right. And that's what they're trying to sell, right? So this postmodernism, which is made everything for sale. Do you think that there has been a change of understanding of this entire concept? Because when you're on one part, you say Tantra is negative, and then you want to do Kundalini, which is part of Tantra. We will do just this. We won't do this. We won't do this. Yahi karna hai.
See, Adi, this can be understood very clearly if you look at what the West did with yoga, right? So, yoga in our Sanatana tradition was just a way of preparing the body for meditation.
Yeah.
Right? So it was not about pranayama, it was not about the asanas, it was more about pratyahara, dharana, dhyana, samadhi. We forgot all of that.
Clear your mind so that when you sit for the meditation,
Precisely. We forgot all of that. What did we focus on? Only the asanas. I don't want to blame the West purely for this, because even our own yoga gurus did the same thing. They wanted to monetize it. So that became your modern outlook on yoga, where you forget that it's Ashtanga, that there are all these limbs. You just stick on to asanas and say, okay, you're bending, you go into these contorted
stretching.
Yeah. And it just becomes like, you are like a pretzel, you're a great yogi. It's not that at all. So the same thing happened with Tantra. The same thing happened with Kundalini. They just saw that here is an opportunity which is presenting itself, which can be monetized easily, which people can be fooled with at the most simplistic level, because you can't see the chakras in action. So you can claim, okay, I've cleared your chakra today, I've cleared this chakra. There's no way empirically that you can prove it. It's not like you can go and do an MRI and prove it. So people took maximum advantage of that. And I think it's that parallel, what they did with yoga and what they've done with
commercialization,
the entire Kundalini, chakras and all of that.
Thank you for explaining this and actually indulging in something like this. You may not want to, would have thought this conversation would go that way, but the reason I bring this up is also, one, in the whole understanding of Tantra, one also needs to know how it's perceived today.
Yes.
Right? It's a sellable commodity.
True.
So that's very interesting. And, when we look at Tantra, we also see, for example, we do a daily puja.
Yes.
That's part of Tantra.
It is very much a part of Tantra. So in the pujas or in the worship that we all follow as Sanatanis today, there are some Puranic elements mingled with a lot of Tantra and a sprinkling of the Vedas.
Okay. How would you elaborate that?
So if you look at just lighting the agarbattis, so that, the entire upachara which you do, it could be the 6 things, the 6 rituals or the 64 rituals. So it's at the base level, also to do with the 5 elements, the Pancha Mahabhutas. So there's the fire, there's the agarbatti, there's the flowers, offering of the water, all of that. So the Puranic, the Tantric, and then a sprinkling of the Vedas.
Which is mantras.
You do a little mantras could also be Tantric.
Either ways, yeah.
Okay, by Tantric, I don't mean the negative, connotation the word has taken up, but from a Tantra origin.
Okay. So basically, all of us do indulge. I personally wake up in the morning. I like to take a shower before I do my puja. And
yes.
हमारे घर में तो ऐसा है, we will not sit on the table. In the time, all of us have not done our puja. And a lot of people see this tika in the morning and say, ये puja करता है. दोपहर में क्यों नहीं होता? क्योंकि मुंह धो लेता हूँ.
Simple as that.
Simple as that. It's not that I'm going to just go put the tika again. So, we do a certain aspect of it every day. Now, a lot of Tantra will get better understood. This is what I think. When I was reading a little bit, that's what I felt. And I said, a lot of things will get better understood if a person is given a small sample, because today it's a very materialistic world.
Right.
So, ma'am, ye dekho na, try karo.
Hmm.
Till the time that sampling of Tantra is not given, and a person literally feels some sort of peace. That's what we are looking for. How do you think people should approach it so that, we don't have patience, right? I do Surya Namaskars every day.
Yes.
The first time I tried it, about 6-7 months back, after a long break, I did 3 and I was like, yeah, can't do it again. Today I'm able to do 7, 8. This is after my basic exercises. With a Surya Namaskar, you get a certain amount of energy immediately. What can one person do to indulge in Tantra and get something out of it so that he gets hooked onto it after that? That's the main thing.
3 ways. Okay, you can use a yantra, which is a geometric representation of the entire universe. The most powerful yantra on the planet is what is called the Shri Yantra, also known as the Shri Chakra Yantra. You could look at it as a divine map, a cosmic map of the entire creation. And this our rishis were able to perceive deep in meditation. Because the words that we speak, Adi, we can come to Vak at another point of time, but words are limited. Language is limiting. The only real thing that we can perceive is what we ourselves experience. So you can use a yantra, which is just a simple meditation on the Shri Yantra. Just look at it because it does something to the brain. The neurophysiology of your brain is changing. The neuroplasticity is altering. The rewiring is happening just as you look at the yantra, as at a Shri Yantra. So the left brain, right brain. So they start working more cohesively together when you look at a yantra for 5 to 7 minutes every day.
Okay.
Right. Apart from that, there are a lot of other things which we can go into in detail, but basically it also activates your pineal gland. Okay, so sometimes I'm saying pineal, sometimes pineal. It's just so that people are familiar with both aspects, because some people say it this way and that. So it activates the pineal gland as well. Just looking at the yantra can do this much.
So it's not that difficult to get into.
Not at all. Just take like a
Shri Yantra.
Shri Yantra. 12-inch by 12-inch black and white drawing, which is not on a blue screen, which means it needs to be printed out, and just start focusing on it, and everything will start coming to you in time. If your intention is there to actually evolve, because you only come into a Shri Yantra when you're ready for the next step.
Yeah, I always say this, I say that today is my time for learning how the world works today.
True.
The Kali Yuga.
Yes.
And when I turn 50, that will be the time where I dedicate myself to figure out how our culture works and stuff like that. I do like to indulge in it, but post 50, the kind of reading that I'm doing for geopolitics today, I want to start doing that. So I have another about 10, 11 years to go into that.
Right. So first was the yantra. Then we come to mantra. And in mantras, you have the gamut. You can start with just simple bija mantras. Okay, I will explain. I will give out one mantra in a little while, which everyone can practice, which is the most basic of the Sri Vidya tradition. Okay. Or you could take it all the way to the Lalita Sahasranama, which is 1,000 names of Mata. Anything in between works. So you have like a gamut of 70, 80 mantras to choose from. And anything works, whatever, floats your boat, as it were, right? And then the third one is the mudras. Mudras also work. Mudras are gestures. Yeah. And gestures which also bring about some changes in the brain, and also it's like, the pressure points and all of that. So choose any one of these methods. And first, identify your Ishta Devata. So in Tantras, there are the Shaiva Tantra, there is also Vaishnava Tantra, which Vaishnavism did not take to Tantra so much. So we have Shaiva and we have Shakta, right? So in the Shakta tradition, Sri Vidya is the highest. But form of knowledge, not in any other way of, trying to make a hierarchy here, but in terms of the knowledge, it's the most auspicious knowledge.
Okay.
So you can mix all the three. Use the yantra as the focal point of your meditation. Do japa watching the yantra or looking at the yantra while also doing some mudras. Simple as that.
That's pretty
So I said that I will give you a mantra to begin with. So this is what is called the Bala Tripura Sundari mantra. So which means you're starting small. So that's the interesting thing about Tantra. It's very life affirming. We are not trying to make anything complicated here. It's simplification. Because if you look at all the Vedic traditions, right, the major yajnas, they needed like 1,000 priests, 800,000 ingredients had to go into the yajna, the yajamana, the king had to sit there. So we, in the Tantra tradition, they said no to all of this. They made this a personal relationship with the divine consciousness.
So individual.
Yeah, there's no middleman. There is no middle person. Okay, the only things between you and your divine consciousness is the yantra, the mantra, and the mudra. Or if you choose not to use the mudra, that's fine. If you choose not to use the mantra, that's fine. But you need one of these three to guide you on the path. Or if you amalgamate all three and use them, it's much faster. The growth is faster. So that mantra, the Bala Tripura Sundari mantra, is only 3 bijas. Okay, so bija mantra means these are sounds which carry tremendous vibration. Right? So the Bala mantra goes like this: Aim, Kleem, Stauhu. Aim is actually all about Saraswati. Okay, Kleem is more for Durga, and Sauhu is for Lakshmi. So you've covered all the 3 energies. I'm not talking about the gods per se here. No, it's about the energies that they represent. Saraswati is for knowledge. Kali is more about empowerment, about being fearless. And Lakshmi is for abundance. And again, when I say abundance, I don't mean just material abundance. Abundance in all aspects of your life, whether it be health, whether it be relationships, whether it is self-actualization, knowledge, all of it.
That's very interesting. Because I categorize Sanatan as a very interesting journey. I say that Sanatan is a journey to achieve knowledge. We've all been sent on this world to learn something, because what the supreme Brahman, as they say, the man or the entity, that energy that knows everything.
Yeah.
And that's why they say Shivji is so peaceful, because he knows everything. He knows what's going to happen. He knows what happened. He knows what's happening.
And he also knows that it's all illusory.
Yeah, so he knows that.
And it's transient. Everything that we see is transient.
Awesome. So this is knowledge. And the quest to knowledge is what we have been sent on this planet for.
Right.
The rest all is immaterial, because you're trying to gain something and contribute to a certain set of knowledge. Because when a person dies, the knowledge remains and it goes into this bank. And the closer you're able to get to, no human can achieve that. But if it's a scale of 100 and you're at 0.5, that's good. The appreciation for the achievement of knowledge is what Sanatan is.
Which brings me to a very interesting point. In the Sanatana tradition, in the system of Kundalini and chakras, we are seen as not having just this physical body. This is the Sthula Sharira, the gross body, which consists of skin and bones. Beyond this is our Sukshma Sharira, wherein lie all your chakras. And beyond that lies the Karana Sharira, which also gives rise to the fact that reincarnation is a possibility. And what you said just now about all this knowledge, we carry this, people will ask how. Empirically, we can't describe it. Just like, it's like clouds. It's all our cloud information in the cloud, right? So it's like that, but it gets carried through, from one life to another. So this knowledge that you have acquired in this life is what sets you on the evolutionary path of spirituality in your coming life. So that's why they say that even for Sri Vidya, it's not everyone who can be a Sri Vidya sadhaka. You don't choose it. It comes and chooses you. Based on what you have brought in your Karana Sharira. And as a part of your karmas and your vasanas and your samskaras.
If your soul is only there yet, then you can achieve.
Only then.
Okay.
You could live in a family with people who are not at all spiritually evolved. It's not their fault. It's okay. It's just 1% of the human population, if they took to spirituality, if they did chanting, and this has been proven time and again that the entire community benefits from bhajans, kirtan, meditation, all of that.
Brings in peace and
prosperity. Right. But this is something that is not something we can choose. I'm pretty certain about this, because in all the people that I speak to, one thing I can say for a fact is they were all chosen to be on this path.
No, the calling is very critical, because I haven't said this on air, but let me just say this. There is a mandir. I haven't been there for 10 years. I think, no, not 10 years, about 5-6 years. And I always feel that I'm not wanted there at the moment. I've gone there in spite of feeling that, and things haven't gone well for me after that.
I can give you a beautiful example of this myself, because I've always been only doing Shakti worship. And I always used to think that I'm being somehow unfaithful to her if I did any of the Shiva mantras. And it would always make me uncomfortable. Even if I did the Rudra, my temperature would go high. And it came into my mind that I have to go to Ujjain Mahakal. And I made all the reservations, everything was done. And you will not believe it. I don't know how to say this, but away major chunk of everything that constituted my life in order for me to not go to Mahakal. It did not allow me to go to Mahakal.
Yeah, there's that.
I was supposed to go the next morning. The day before, my life just, it was like caved in. Everything, my professional front, my personal. I was in Bhopal, but I couldn't make the journey to Ujjain because everything just collapsed.
I know someone who climbed up to Vaishno Devi, 14 kilometers, right? And we were a young kid at that time. Dad was in the Air Force. And so we said, यार हमारा दर्शन हो गया, आप जाके करके ठीक है. What do you mean ठीक है? ठीक है, नहीं जाना. Standing on the door. I mean, it's like 100 meters away, isn't it? वापस. And he came back.
The calling is for real.
मेरे को बुलावा नहीं है, माँ ने बोला भैया अभी नहीं आना.
There's also one very interesting story which I want to share with you. When I went on some podcast, someone heard me, and she called me from really far away, about 10,000 kilometers away, and she said, I have a message for you from the spirits. And I'm writing my 6th book right now, and it's about the Lalita Sahasranama, the esoteric, and I'm stuck like never before, because all these years I was in an active career and still I was bringing out 1 book a year. But this time I don't have an active career because, like I said, everything just fell apart. I've just been focused on my spirituality. And she said to me that the spirits had 3 messages for me. The first message was, and she knows nothing about me, she knows nothing about my journey, she just gave me these messages. She said that the spirits want me to tell you that you're stuck on this book, but don't give up. This will be your magnum opus.
Continue staying stuck, you'll find your way.
And it says, go to Kanchipuram. Kamakshi is waiting for you there. Until you go and see her, you will not finish this book. And then the third one was, it was something of a personal nature. So, but these 2, for a moment, Aadi, I was stunned, because for someone to call from such a distance and give me this message, she's not even Indian, and for her to say, go to Kanchipuram, Kamakshi and all of that, it was like some of the things that happen on this journey, ever since I got on this path. Some of the things are just completely inexplicable.
Yeah, you can't. It's funny. So, when you experience this, and when you do the Tantra, as you say, one thing that one always wants to know, and a layman would want to know, यार मेरी जिंदगी में क्या बदलाव आएगा?
ये बदलाव आएगा कि आप एक मैनिफेस्टेशन मशीन बन जाओगे. जब आप थोड़ा बहुत साधना करने लगेंगे, तो आपको पता चल जाएगा कि जो भी आपके मन में आ रहा है, पॉजिटिव या, because see, it's like in the tradition of karma, there are 2 fruits that you get, literally, for every action. There is what is called drishta phala, which is, if you and I are talking now, it's the satisfaction that we are getting from engaging in a dialogue. The adrishta phala is, we don't know how many lives we are touching. We don't know who is getting affected by this.
Yeah, that's
right. Okay, so now there is adrishta phala. Leave the drishta phala, because that immediately you have gained the benefit, right? There is the adrishta phala, and then there is your prayatna, which is the effort you're putting. Now, prayatna, sadhana, any kind of practice, whether it's meditation, chanting, prayer, kirtan, these are all prayatna. You're making a genuine effort. It's a conscious effort that you're making. So if it's an action with a conscious effort, then it's something that is prayatna, right?
Yeah.
So it also is it's an act of volition. So it's a karmic act. That's why it brings, see, it's not going to bring you what you want
immediately
on the table, but it will give you the anugraha. It will give you the
pathway.
grace.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like you will meet the right person, perhaps, who will help you publish your book, or you will meet the person who will help you progress in your career, or you will meet your soulmate who will take you further on the spiritual path. So it's basically adrishta phala coming together with prayatna. That is the serendipity, it's the synchronicity. And like you were asking, how do you know that you're on the right path? It's because the synchronicities start to increase.
That's very interesting, and I'll connect it with something which happened to me with this channel. I started this channel because I had nothing to do in COVID. I said, यार कुछ करते हैं life में, क्या करूं? So started with some war stories and this and that and everything, and then one day I remember I was having a debate with dad or somebody about what's happening in the world. And that put me to a thing, yeah, why shouldn't I talk to other people? And it clicked, and I started doing interviews and podcasts and this and that. And here we are, about almost 2 years away, that the channel is where it is and the things are going. So, what you're saying is, till the time you don't take that first, second, third, fourth step,
right,
you will not know where you're going to.
And also, it's that a lot of times people ask, why is it not happening to me? It's because your adrishta phala is not ripe enough to be eaten. It's like, let's give a very simple example for everyone to understand. So there is this river, and you feel, okay, you're muscular enough, you've trained enough to cross the river. Okay, on that particular morning, the current is very high. Okay, and
so there are multiple factors
it's what scientists call the hidden variables. If you want to speak very empirically, it's like we are not in control of the hidden variables. Okay, so you're not able to make that journey past the river. But the next morning, you come, you don't know what's going to happen, but no currents, and 5 minutes you've crossed the river. So that's because your adrishta phala has ripened at that moment, and you're able to pass it. And everything around you, hidden variables are on your side.
And that's deep. तो guys, क्या बोलते हैं ना, कर्म करो, फल की चिंता मत करो, लगे रहो, लगे रहो, so that you will see the light sometime at the end of the tunnel or in the middle of the tunnel or wherever it has to come for you. Now there are some people who will do this and still not get anything. Right. It's because of intention, it's because of surrounding, it's because of their experiences, their karma, whatever it is.
Right.
How, and they become negative, as you some time ago said, that they are the ones who will now start saying, hey, नहीं होता ऐसे,
ये सब बकवास है, हमने इतना time waste किया इसके ऊपर.
How do you kind of balance these two things? Because I'm sure with you doing this, you would have also heard a lot of this.
Not only heard, I think I go through it myself.
Okay, fantastic.
I think the only piece of advice I would have is stick to it. Because even for me, spirituality comes in waves. There are times when I say, you know what, chuck it. I don't want to do my chanting. I do an hour and a half of chanting every day. So some days I like, okay, I'm just not going to do it. And I went through a terribly bad patch in my life past couple of months where I said, you know what, I'm off spirituality completely. So it comes in waves for everyone. It's okay to even accept that.
How do you justify it? Because you feel guilty about that.
You do feel guilty, but
I'll give you an example. My dog passed away sometime when it was difficult for me to do puja.
Yes.
Okay. Every time I would sit there, start crying and stuff like that. And it was very difficult for me to do that. I was very close, and the audience also knows that. I keep him at the back of my...
Right.
My idea of keeping him there is not to show the world, but for him to keep an eye on me.
True.
And kind of...
He's your guardian angel.
My guardian. So, like, Daddy, don't go here. Don't do this. That sort of a thing. How do you justify that? Because you just can't.
Aadi, this is where Tantra comes in. This is the reason why they used all these things which were taboo, talking about death, going to smashana, and all these things, so that you become aware of the reality of life. Death, illness, all of these are things that we have to come to grips with.
So you mean to say you will not get disturbed so badly when you're aware of this thing and you know this is immaterial.
Yeah, true. Because there's already an acceptance which is formed. You see, okay, let's use the yagya as an example. Okay, so we've all gone for funerals. How do you feel after you come back from a funeral? You're like, okay, so dispassionate about everything. It doesn't matter what you eat. It doesn't matter what you wear. Okay, so what is the teaching there? What is the learning there? We have to be so dispassionate about life itself.
Then how do you find passion for doing things?
See, that's another aspect of it. Once you disassociate, okay, karma phala, what you were talking about, okay, nishkama karma, then you will understand what really drives you, what you're passionate about, and it will push you in that direction, and you will be fearless. Okay, so if you're always going to be afraid of death, you're not going to try the bungee jumping. But if you come to terms with the fact that, look, everyone's going to die sooner or later, so let me just do this. Doesn't it give you a sense of freedom already?
Yeah.
It's the same with doing smashana rituals, because then you realize all your near ones, all your loved ones, you yourself are going to end up this way soon or late. Just a matter of time. And time, again, Adi, is a human construct. It's not something that was given to us, by the universe. The universe doesn't follow, our sense of time. So time and space are both something,
we have constructed
it's a human
for us to understand the universe. That's deep. When you also talk about Tantra, there's another thing that comes across is that it is, as I said, was negative in this and that. So people just won't say that they do these kind of things. And I would say about 5-7 years ago, it wasn't even cool.
Yeah.
True. To sport a tilak or to wear your stuff on your hand. I mean, I've had my tattoo since 15 years. People used to ask me, what is this?
Right.
Today nobody does. Hey, what is this? Interesting.
Yeah.
Has there been a mindset within the country? Has there been a change of mindset within the country that you can see, within the environment that you can see around, where people are more getting attracted to spirituality?
I think, I've been in the realm of wellness, as you know, since 2000. So I've seen the journey. I've seen how people went from being really ashamed of even wanting to try Ayurveda and meditation and all of that to today, all of these things being uber cool.
Uber. Right? It's like high society.
Right. Exactly.
I just did an Ayurvedic treatment. Right. And it's like, wow. Okay.
Right. So I think I can ascribe 2 reasons to it. Very superficial understanding. I've not gone deep into it, but we're talking as friends. So one is Modi ji, his impact upon all of us. And because I live overseas a great deal, so I see what he's doing for the average Indian who's living abroad. Their sense of self-worth has gone up so tremendously. I cannot begin to tell you. Okay, suddenly we feel we are proud to be Hindus, Sanatanis, we are proud to say that we are studying the Vedas, we are proud that our children are chanting the Bhagavad Gita. Modi ji, number one. And number two, I would say, was the pandemic, because it gave us those 2 years to look inward. We suddenly realized that all the things that we aspire for, the big car, the big villa, it's not going to help. It's what you have inside of you that determines family, perhaps, but I'm not a great believer in this family thing.
No, I mean, it's just the factor that you kind of realize what is dear to you.
What is dear to you is one thing, but also that all your resilience, your strength, everything comes from within you.
Yeah, and it all got tested.
It all got tested, and families broke. There was like mayhem, literally in every home. Every household went through their own stuff. So I think these 2 factors brought about this sense of pride in all of us, to just not only mention that we are Bharatiya, but also the fact that Hindutva, is on the upswing, which is evident to everyone. And I remember I was in Dubai when I was watching, the whole, the Ram temple, and when they were doing the Prana Pratishta, I couldn't stop crying because how far have we come? And it's all thanks to the vision of 1 or 2 men sitting there.
That's true. Now, the reason I asked you this is because with the current scenario that we see around, we see polarization and this and that, and a lot of people are upset, right? And that all will connect to, again, the sort of energy which is going around the place. Tantra is about creating energies and channelizing energy within yourself.
Yes.
How do you they say concentrate here, concentrate there, so that you can, the mudras and this and that. That if you do a simple mudra, it does have a certain
correct
nerve ending which is going and triggering
Right.
something in your head. I mean, if you do this is a different nerve. This is a different nerve. This. So it scientifically can be explained.
That's correct.
Because you're channeling certain energies. Now, when you see stuff around us, there's so much of negativity today because of, let's say, the elections which has happened. I want you to give us a certain amount of advice that how do you channelize this negativity and try and see the positive side of things, because a lot of people have difficulty doing that.
Right. And I think the main message of Advaita Vedanta is that it is very, very important in today's day and age where we are seeing so much polarization, where there is no room for dissent, there is no room for discourse. We somehow feel that only we are right. I think Advaita Vedanta says all of this is just Maya. Okay, so we have to accept that there is place for other religions. Whatever be our stand on our own religion, let us be as proud as we want to be of our own religion, but let us understand that there is place for other people also on this planet.
Good, bad, or ugly.
Right. So let them do their thing. Let us just stay true to who we are. So I think we should be open to dialogue. And Hinduism, Sanatana, is always open to criticism. We are a bit too open to criticism, which is why even if you watch all the movies, they will criticize our religion as much as can humanly be possible.
The Pandit is always, the Brahman is always the bad guy, scheming, hiding behind doors.
Let them try that with any other religion. That's not happening. No, because the fear, right? And we are so accepting, and I think that's the beauty of our religion.
A lot of people would criticize that as an over-acceptance thing.
I think that's why we have survived so long, and that's why now everyone is embracing us. If there's a Julia Roberts sitting there and saying that I am very much drawn to Hinduism, it's because of what the fact that it's our acceptance, and the fact that we are saying there is room for everything else. Within Hinduism, there is the Charvaka philosophy. I mean, how beautiful is it that here is a dharma which is saying it's okay if you don't believe in God. I mean, for me, it blows my mind.
Yeah, because Sanatana is teaching you about how the world works, how knowledge is that, and everything.
It teaches you cosmology, it teaches you
everything.
I mean, astronomy, astrology, you name it, it's there in that body of knowledge.
Especially in the
right.
What is energy?
Okay, so like we were talking about the if you look at it from a quantum physics
halfway into the podcast and I'm asking what's energy, you might be but why I wanted to do this and ask in the end is because we've till now figured out what's the use of energy.
Right.
Now let's find out what's energy itself.
So we take the quantum physics angle?
Anyway.
Okay. So now modern studies, in the past 100 years, starting from, Einstein and Niels Bohr and all the quantum physicists, they have understood that everything that exists is only that 0.01%. The rest of it is dark matter. They don't know what it is. That's what
the visible space, as they call it.
However you want to term it, but that's the fact. And I think if you talk about the double slit experiment, for example, it's now understood that the observer is the most important. And a particle, it can either become a particle or a frequency based on who is observing, what is observing.
And his perception of things.
So energy, like I think when electricity was invented, many people would not want to believe it until the light came on. I mean, because there's no way you can see electricity, right? You can only see its end result. So I think it's the same for when we talk about energies in the body or around us and all of that. So definitely there's ionization in the air. So when we light an agarbatti, when we light a diya, there is an ionization process which happens. There is a clearing out. So even in Western traditions, they do the sage, the burning of the sage. So energy for me is just that. It's something that is fundamental. Everything is built upon that. What we see as matter is perception. Okay, we don't even know whether it really exists or not. But energy, even though we don't see it, is the fundamental constituent of life itself, of the universe.
Our soul part of it, that energy?
Very much so.
Okay.
Because everything that we see is a part of that energy. Okay, so in the same way as nuclear fission and fusion, you could use it one way or the other, good or bad. Energy also can be harnessed in whichever way you want.
Cannot be destroyed.
Yeah, it can be transmuted or transferred, or it can change from one way to another, but it can never be it can never be destroyed, and it's not for us to create either.
Okay.
Because the universal energy that we talk of is already in existence when the universe came into being.
So will Tantra help you to understand the connection between energy and knowledge?
It arrives at the knowledge by the use of energy. Because I will explain this in a simple fashion. So the Kundalini, that's the connection between the knowledge and the energy here in the Tantric method. So the Kundalini, we assume, is sitting at the base of our spine.
Yeah.
It's just a coiled serpent, as it were. So that's the source of energy. Okay. So to liken it to a house where there are several electrical connections running all over, but where are the points? There are some points where you can turn on and off everything,
The
right?
switchboards.
So it's exactly like that with the Kundalini Shakti. So you have the 7 energy points, which are the chakras, the 7 chakras. Now, the Kundalini, there's a great deal of debate about when an embryo actually becomes a living being.
When does the energy
infuse the embryo? Now, in the Vedic tradition, we believe that it's at conception itself. In the Tibetan tradition, they believe it's on the 49th day after conception, which is also the day when the pineal gland starts to form. So debates, I mean, it's obviously it's open for debate, and it's not something that we can, put our finger on. But so from Kundalini, what happens is the energy has to. Okay, so there are 2 ways in which we lead our lives. One is a very outward fashion where we are looking for pleasure, which is called bhoga, right? So pleasure comes from food or from experiences and all of that. Yeah. So that's the outward expression of energy. Now, there's another way of doing it, another way of leading life. So this is that nivritti, pravritti.
Yeah.
So the other way is when you're looking inward, you're taking stuff in, and then kind of channelizing it inside of you.
Okay.
Right? So these are the 2 ways you can live. Now, the entire spiritual tradition is about channeling everything inward and not looking outward for your pleasure points.
So channelizing energy inward. Okay.
Yeah. So inward and upward. So the other things, pleasure is usually outward and downward.
Yeah.
So this is inward and upward. So upward meaning from the Muladhara all the way up to your Sahasrara, and then you become one with the universal consciousness. All the way through the 6 chakras and then the 7th chakra.
Then it goes up.
Then that's enlightenment. That's when.
How would you describe enlightenment?
In a very layman term, it's, I think, while you're alive, Jivan Mukta is when you have detachment. You have, like a dispassionate kind of look, outlook on life. And I think it comes then.
You can't do much.
You're already you're already dispassionate enough to know that this is just the next step.
So how does Tantra describe death? Understand that, if I may.
Accepts it as another fundamental concept of life itself.
The transfer of energy.
Yeah. And it's a temporary situation, and it does not end there. It's only the beginning of something else.
It's so interesting to. It's like I'm kind of throwing stuff at you for a particular reason, and I'm sure you would have picked it up. Is because I'm trying to demystify this concept. Because a lot of people who will talk about this for a clickbait. In the sense, would want to figure out, what hot thing I can get out of this person who's sitting in front of me, so that I can create something.
And buzz. Also, what I have seen, Aadi, is that people are into fear mongering, using spirituality.
I wanted to ask you at the end. This is what my last question was, but we've spoken about all the good things. Now let's come to the, as you said, the fear mongering. any energy can be used for good. It's like nuclear science. You can
True.
create power, light up bulbs, give
Right.
electricity to people, or you can destroy cities.
True.
So why is there so much fear mongering, and is it that easy for somebody to just become a tantric and start playing games with people?
It's a fairly easy
Okay.
path if you're willing to compromise on your dharma and
Your
karma,
morals.
right? But obviously, you will face the repercussions sooner or later. I think the fear mongering.
A lot of people miss out on the repercussions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The fear mongering is only for clickbait, Adi, honestly,
Hmm.
because there is no room for fear in spirituality as far as I can see. As far as my studies have shown me, my research is always that you indulge in any small form of spirituality, you have nothing to be afraid of. Okay, so you apply this to a larger framework, it still remains the same. Okay, so there is, even if you get the mantra, some people say, don't do this, don't, such strict rules. That was the whole point of Tantra, to break away from those strict rules and become heterodox. Now, what are you doing by taking them all back there? You're actually, it's a misalignment.
You're creating a paradigm which is not related
and not relevant.
Okay, that's a better word. Now, when you talk about this fear mongering, there is also this thing. There's not evidence, but there is black magic.
There is.
Right? A lot of people talk about this nazar tattoo and this and that. A lot of
bilkul.
That's basically again channelizing energy and a lot of other things. How do you describe black magic, and how is it described in the tantric structure? And is it also, a lot of people get scared of it, right?
Okay.
Especially when you go towards certain parts of the country. I don't want to say because people will beat me up.
True.
When you go to certain parts of the country, it's there. People do it. We know it. There are a whole lot of funny little things that happen around the place. But they're also done for a certain purpose.
Correct. That purpose is for spiritual evolution, for personal growth and development, and eventual liberation. Now, in that process, some people will misuse it. So when I said manifestation machine, if you can manifest the positives, why can you not manifest the negative? It's both two sides of the same coin.
That's true.
So of course it exists. I am not denying it. But that was not the essence of Tantra.
But there's also the battle between the good and the evil.
Always.
Right?
Always.
Somebody who's using power, you use it for good or use it for evil.
So, of course, there is nazar in this world. And there are some countries which I have visited where you can feel the energy, which is
Europe.
so intense.
Europe. Crazy.
No, for me, Europe is a good energy. Places like Reunion Island, for example. It's a small island off the coast of Mauritius. The moment I landed there, it was like I was carrying 15 kilo
For me, it was Germany.
Backpack. Really?
I mean, I don't know. When I saw that place, it was dark. It was grey. And I could just see. I mean, my whole mind was always how many people died here.
But I think with the islands, right? All the Caribbean islands, because of the indentured labor, because of their extensive use of cannabis and the whole zombie effect, it's somehow so surreal. The energy is not surreal. The energy is palpable, but the feeling of it's like you're not even alive. It's like you're just floating. That was the feeling I got. I just want to run away from there. I went back again and again to see if I would be able to conquer my own, because overcome this sensation of what the energy was doing. But no, every single time it was the same.
Yeah, I mean, I think everybody will perceive it differently.
Relate to it differently.
For me, Germany was a very negative place.
Yeah.
I mean, I was there, was young, wanted to party and all that. I literally was in my room. I could not think of going out.
Yeah, for me it was the opposite. I've lived in Germany.
For me it was that, I used to tell you also, bloody,
right.
Pray at the end of it and stuff like that. So you kind of have that.
It's probably something from your previous Janmas, perhaps. Probably. Because that was the first reaction I had to Germany as well. I couldn't stop crying for 3 days. The entire Holocaust thing, because somewhere I think, we were all.
Yeah, I mean,
there was
it's the same.
Some kind of collective consciousness.
Whenever I read about what happened in Bengal,
the famine.
And this and that. For me to travel that side is not easy.
Which brings me to a very interesting point. You were asking how we counter this negativity, right?
Yeah.
I have found a way. So I have become a hermit in a way in which my interaction with the outside world is very, very limited. So no television, no scrolling, no newspapers. And I live in a high-rise building, so I call myself a hermit in a high-rise. I'm on a 59th floor, so no connection with the rest of humanity because I'm on this path. And it's with due respect to everyone who has to lead their lives. I have the privilege of having the ability to do this.
Yeah, some people will try and compartmentalize themselves wherever they are.
Right. But in Tantra, also in the Sri Vidya tradition, it is very clear that you become a Sri Vidya sadhaka only when you're done with the responsibilities of being a grahastha. You can't step into it in the midst of motherhood or in the midst of being a daughter-in-law or a wife. You first fulfill all your duties, do your dharma. Only then, if it chooses you, you're ready for it. Otherwise, don't even try.
So last thing I'm going to ask you in this wonderful session is, how do I know if it's going to choose me?
Until it chooses you, you don't know. But the fact that we're even talking about it is an indication that very soon you might get a calling.
For a viewer?
For everyone. The fact that they've tuned in and they're listening to this will lead them into further portals of studying about Sri Vidya or Tantra. And then suddenly it'll be like a moment where it's an epiphany and they feel, okay, so this is what
I can
really...
do this.
Yeah, this is what it's touching my heart. This is what I was looking for, and I'm ready for this now. And then they take that one step, and from there, it's like, they just go down this beautiful rabbit hole of fabulous experiences and spirituality and all that.
I must say, this has been a realistic podcast. It's been interesting because we've related to lives, we've related to current experiences and energy, which is the most important thing. For me, why I wanted to do this is, one, to demystify this whole thing. Secondly, I've always been curious about knowledge and spirituality. As I asked you, that the quest of knowledge is what Sanatana.
Right.
That's how I understand it. A lot of people may criticize me on this, and that's the beauty of our Sanatana Dharma, that everybody has the freedom of understanding it differently. There's no definition of Sanatana Dharma anywhere. It's a way of life. So it's your life. You perceive it in a certain way. It's my life. I perceive it in a certain way. A third person will.
Because that's the only way we can actually experience life. It's the qualia, right? We only can experience what comes to us. And I think that's why even learned neuroscientists such as Sam Harris and the like Dan Dennett and all of them, now they've understood that there is no such thing as free will. From a scientific perspective, they're saying free will doesn't exist. Why are we fooling ourselves into thinking that, okay, life gives you choice to pick between vanilla and chocolate ice cream? I think that's about it. That's the extent of choice you have, freedom of choice. Rest of it is all, there's no free will.
There's so much energy around you which also influences, right? It's not that I'll fix my energy and then everybody has to stand behind me in the line.
It doesn't work that way.
Work because,
and first of all, even if you fix your energy now, what's to say that it will not go into disalignment tomorrow morning? Because that's the thing with energy.
So guys, it's a big task. Okay. Lage raho. And thank you so much. This has been lovely. For me as well as I'm sure a lot of people that are going to listen to this podcast are going to take something out of it.
Can I end with a blessing for everyone, Aadi?
Absolutely.
Shri Varchasvamayushyamarogyama vidhachobamanam mahiyate dhanyam dhanam pashum bahuputralabham shatasamvatsaram dirghamayuhu. This is from the Rig Veda and from the Sri Suktam. And on that note, Shri Matre Namaha, thank you for tuning in. Thank you so much, Aadi. It was indeed a privilege and a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you so much.